Well, welcome back to the channel. Today I am cutting party flowers, flowers to deliver to #1 Bruton, and a dinky little wedding, including 2 flower crowns. So today's clip is going to be about what I cut to put in flower crowns and how I make 2 100% biodegradable flower crowns. No wire, just beautiful little crowns for this gorgeous couple to wear tomorrow at their wedding. Join me as I go cutting in my lovely flower gardens. This is a flower farm and floristry business here in sunny Somerset between fashionable Bruton and up and coming Wincanton. It's a gorgeous September day. It's September the 15th. And we're going to go cutting quickly before it gets too hot. I've been waiting because it was very dewy earlier on this morning. It was a bit cool and damp for cutting, so I've got this sort of great window before it gets too hot. So I'm going to cut quickly. Come along with me and I'll show you what we're doing. And if you're new to the channel, you're very welcome. Please subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks we give you along the way are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club where there are 300 other people having a lovely time. The links for club membership and coffee buying are in the blurb to all my clips. Right, come on, let's go. The flower crowns are to be light in weight and red. So small pom-poms are just the ticket. Light, very pretty, just the ticket. Some lovely bright helichrysum, obviously stand out very well out of water. A lovely bright helichrysum to go with those pom-pom dahlias, which also stand up very well out of water for the flower crowns. Not strictly red, but if you do always the same colour and you have a very kind of all exactly the same going around, then you lose definition and you don't see it. So red and red and red. Also lovely for flower crowns for Benabonariensis. The bees love it. The butterflies do it. And the flower crowns love it. Very much in the spirit of designing on the hoof, I've just spotted these apricot dahlias still in quite good bud, and in a flower crown that's going to be really pretty. I know it's not red, but remember, we're always painting with flowers. Now here is a beautiful thing for a flower crown with red. These are hawthorn berries. They are quite weighty, and I don't want the crowns to feel too heavy on the girls' heads. So I'm going to be a little bit careful with them. Also, I'm going to be very, very careful of thorns. Now, of course, because this is hawthorn, clues in the name, in the far off distant past, when it's in flower, it's called the Mayflower. Do you know the saying, ne'er cast a clout till the May is out? Don't take a layer off until the hawthorn's flowering. Which means in the spring, if you feel it's warm enough to take your vest off, but the hawthorn's not flowering, you'll be caught out and catch a chill. Here it is in fruit, having had a really lovely blossom earlier in May. In the far off distant past, hawthorn, the Mayflower, is the Beltane flower. And at Beltane, weddings used to be, it was the season for marriages. And, you know, this is pre-Christian era. And so hand fasting would take place on May Day, when the May is out. And hand fasting is an old way of describing a wedding, pledging your troth from one to another. And crowns would be made of the Mayflower for this event. And of course, in those days, one didn't have a calendar, and one didn't say it is this many days. You didn't say this will be May Day. May Day was the day the Mayflower was in flower. Isn't that lovely? Anyway, so I think this will be fantastic in 2 flower crowns for tomorrow. So I'm going to cut some, but I'm not going to go heavy on it. And I will be very, very careful to make sure there are no thorns. My poor girls do not want to put on their flower crowns on their heads and then find themselves dripping. Ooh, that wouldn't be attractive. And while I'm here, look at these gorgeous bunches of fruit on, this is a Siberian crabapple. And this fruit gets darker and darker through the autumn, and I cut it and put it on my Christmas wreaths. But it's going to look lovely in these flower crowns. So let's have some. And I'm just cutting them in little bunches like this. Now, the weather is warming up, the sun is warming up, so I've popped my snips in the front of my trolley, and I'm just going to take what I've cut so far back to the studio and get it out of the heat. The sedum cuts up into small pieces, very pretty for a flower crown. As you can see here, plenty for the butterflies and for the bees. This butterfly with the curly edges is a comma. And this one, for obvious reasons, is a peacock. And off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what this butterfly is. I'll have to ask Fabrizio. He's our resident lepidopterist. Look, here's one more stem of limonium that has shot out and flowered since I harvested the rest for drying. Very nice in a flower crown, not red, but will make detail. Dark pink roses. These are James Austin. I will check them over carefully for any sign of weather damage before putting them in the crown. But even in bud, very nice. Little late season Alchemilla mollis will give us a little zingy green. And don't forget Achillea, which looks very good in flower crowns. And just say yes to a spangle of miscanthus. Look at the movement in this. So yes, 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 flower crown action here. And while I'm walking around the edges of fields, I'm just keeping an eye out for little extra details. Look at these wild carrot seed heads in the sward. Very good for flower crowns. Some for me, some for the birds to eat over the winter, some to set seed for next year. And how's this zinnia for a good red? I'll cut them. I may not use them, they may be too heavy, but we'll see. I love the way the drill starts as I film. And I don't know how the Spanish flag will hold up out of water, but I'll give it a test. How could I not have some of this? Look at that colour. Right, and last but by no means least, I've got some lovely long strings of ivy. And these are going to be the base for my flower crowns, and I'm going to pop them in water. They're going to stay overnight, and tomorrow morning, the wedding is tomorrow, I will make the flower crowns and deliver them. Let's let them all have a nice drink. Right, so it's Saturday morning, and I'm going to make these flower crowns, and then I'm going to run them up to Stourhead, where the wedding is to take place this afternoon. It is a lovely, cool, damp day. Slight drizzle. Not necessarily ideal weather for a wedding, but perfect weather for flower crowns, because the slight damp in the air will keep the crowns very, very fresh. I will deliver with my flower crowns a little spritzer bottle so that they can give them a spritz before they go in case it suddenly becomes sunny. I obsess about flowers going over. And while these will be perfectly all right, it makes me feel better. So there is no real need to deliver the little spritzer, but I will. Particularly because it's raining, slightly damp. If ever you are getting married and it is going to be slightly damp on your wedding day, do not despair. Remember the old French saying, un mariage pluvieux fait un mariage heureux, which translated means a rainy wedding day will make for a happy marriage, which is very good advice. Basically, it means your expectations have been slightly managed. Have a good life. There we go. Right, I have got the measurements of my two brides' heads, and I've cut this ribbon. This is the wrong one. I have to go and get the right one. But I have cut a ribbon to the right length. Now, this also is possibly more unnecessary because flower crowns sit slightly on top of the head. If you have them so they go actually round your head, they'll fall down. If they go round the sort of the outside part of your head, they'll just fall on your head because they inevitably stretch. Even if you make them from wire, they'll stretch a bit. So I will make them slightly smaller than the measurements that my brides have given me, so that they sit on top, slightly on top of their heads. There's nothing worse with a flower crown than the feeling that it's going to collapse. Personally, I'm not a mad flower crownist. I think it's very, very hard to wear a flower crown, even if you're the most beautiful person in the entire world, and not look like Sarah Ferguson on the ski slopes in about 1986. However, I'm quite because I very merrily make them, I'm quite looking forward to making these. Plus, I really like the people who've asked me to make their flower crowns. And if somebody comes to me and asks me nicely, I'm very likely to say yes. Whatever they're asking for. So I'm going to really put some welly into it and make some lovely flower crowns. So come along with me for the ride and enjoy. Anything else I need to say before I go further? Yes, for those of you eagle-eyed, I am wearing the same blouse I've been wearing since Monday, and it is Saturday morning. And this is my tiny little thing for climate change. If you live in the countryside and are not forced to take public transport every day, don't get hot and sweaty and towny, then it is not necessary to change your clothes every day. It is not even necessary to have a bath every day. And I'm going to reveal something possibly that you'll be very shocked by, and I expect I'll have some unfollowers. But I have been here working all week in my house, in my garden, in my barn. And not only have I not changed my shirt, I haven't had a bath or a shower either. I've washed my face and my hair, I've washed, but I have not had a bath or a shower. And I think if we all do a little thing, a little bit, then we can all contribute to the planet not going to hell in a handcart quite so fast. And so that's what I do, is I don't change my clothes too often, and I don't submerge myself in hot soapy water too often either, because I think it's entirely unnecessary. And if we're also concerned about our gut biome, our gut flora, if we wash our clothes and our arms and our bodies too much, then our skin flora will be smashed to bits, and the environment. Anyway, that is my little lecture of the day. Let's make some flower crowns. I can never turn the thing off. Right, so here is the correct piece of ribbon with the correct measurement. And the first of my brides, TK, there's nobody there. The indignant sniff at the end of the barking is what makes me laugh. Anyway, the circumference of the first of my bride's heads is this long. So, which is quite long. So I'm going to make her flower crown ever so slightly smaller than this, and I'm literally going to make a circle. So I'm going to make the 2 circles. Well, you can watch, it's very boring. Anyway, I'm twisting long pieces of ivy because I don't want to have any wire, or these are 100% biodegradable. There is flower crown base number 1. Oh yeah, interestingly, if you're interested in, really, these are going to be quite delicate flower crowns. I know it already looks enormous, but these are going to be delicate flower crowns. If you're looking for wild and enormous flower crowns, there's a lovely girl in London, a London florist, and she's called U.F.L.O. is her business. And she does workshops where you go and you make flower crowns which are like this. And I just think it would be really, really fun. So do look her up. She's on Instagram, U.F.L.O. And you might really enjoy having a look at the kind of things that she's making, being inspired by them. And if ever you're in London and she's holding a workshop, I would go and have a look. Anyway, there's my first base. Pretty simple, huh? And I'm going to make another one for my other bride, and then I'm going to start dressing them. So I'll show you in a minute. Right, 2 flower crown bases, and all I've done is twist ivy around into a circle. My first bride, my second bride. And I am going to tie where the crossover, this is 1 piece of ivy. I love it. And where the crossover is, where the ivy joins, is twisted underneath, I am going to tie it. If I were doing something, you know, that's sitting on a table, for example, or wasn't going to be put under the pressure of being worn, I wouldn't bother. But I don't want these popping open while my dear ladies are wearing their crowns. Plus, also, where I tie it is going to be the beginning of where I start attaching material. So, you know how I love my raffia. Little piece of raffia. Let's do this one first. Now, you don't want your raffia to be too knotty. You don't want to see it too much. It would be the same if I were doing this with wire. A lot of people make flower crowns with wires, and I understand why. They want it to be firm. They don't want it to move too much. And it is true that it is sufficiently uncomfortable as a thing to wear that you don't want it to feel as if it's going to fall off. So there's my first piece, and I'm going to snip. I'm going to be very, very tidy because this is going to be delicate, and I don't want the raffia to be too much seen. There's my raffia tied on. And I'm now going to take 1 piece at a time of all the different material I've got. Remember yesterday I was cutting, I've got berries, helichrysum, dahlias, verbena bonariensis. We've done the helichrysum, more little dahlias. I've got limonium, some just popping roses. I'm not going to put big roses, I'm going to put little rose buds. Achillea, grasses, one each tails to go at the back. I thought they'd be fun to have like a ponytail hanging down the back. Tails of amaranthus. Zinnias, again, maybe too big, may see if I get one on the side, we'll see, but they're a good red. Spanish flag, oh yes, I think that's going to be very lovely. Little buds of, little pops of wild carrot seed heads and sedum, and in the middle here I have got late flowering Alchemilla mollis, which is a nice zingy green. So it's a nice mix. And I think what I'll do is I'll bring you in so you can see close up what I'm doing as I start, and then I'll turn you off and just work my way around and then show you the end product, or I'll put you on the whirly thing. Can never turn this thing off. So I'm going to take small amounts of material and bind them into the flower crown. 1, 2, or possibly 3 little bits at a time. Very important. The hawthorn is shedding, so I may not use it so much. I love that colour. Look at that colour, isn't that great? So, for example, here we have a little bit of Alchemilla, the one tail of amaranth that's going to go at the back, and a little piece of purple, which is just going to, you don't see it, it just sort of glows in the mix. And I've got the place where I attached my raffia. I'm not going to have my stems too long. And while I'm going to be very careful not to squash the leaves of my ivy. So I'm going to just bind, and you have to be tight, okay? Hold everything tight. Again, this is a reason I don't use wire, is I'm trying to be greener, but if people use wire, they don't have to be so tight because the wire is doing the work for them. And you just go round binding material to the crown. It's really, really simple. Once you've done a little bit, you keep pushing, you keep binding through the material. So I'm going to wiggle my raffia it's almost as if I'm sewing. Oh yeah. And I'm just going to carry on round and round and round. So I'll show you when I've finished. I think even to put it on the whizzy thing is just too long. All right, and here's the first one finished. When you get to the end, you just tie the raffia around. And I know where the back is because of the tail of the amaranthus. And I hope my bride will forgive me for trying it on. Each, no, it's very sweet actually, isn't it? I think my probably grey hair and general less chicness is not doing it any favours. Very important to try these things on and see how they look. I bet you she ends up wearing it this way. Which weirdly has the tail on this side. But I'm wearing my glasses make it very hard for me to see. But anyway, there you go. This is not a job you can do in a hurry. But actually, yeah, I know. They're good, they're good. Fabrizio says this is the apotheosis of my art. Perhaps I'm very odd not loving them that much. But actually, when I make them like this, when I film them, I love them. And the colours are very gentle. I know the idea was it was supposed to be sort of reddish. So if you mush it all together with your eye, it is more red than not. If you were painting, it would be red. And there's the second one done. I mean, actually they are lovely, aren't they? They just don't suit me. So that's why I think I should walk away. But they'll need a pin on to keep them safe. But they are, well, there you are. That's how you make floral crowns with no wire, no tape, no ribbon, purely fresh material from the garden. I cut it yesterday, it's been conditioning overnight. I will spritz them. You've seen me spritz one, I'm going to spritz this one. I'm going to deliver them, they'll wear them this afternoon, and I hope they have an absolutely lovely day. I think it's such a lovely idea, and if you're going to be, I'll take it off. If you're going to be, not spend £1 million, look at that, it is gorgeous, look. You're not going to spend £1 million on your wedding, but you want a wow factor thing, then actually flower crowns are beautiful. And these girls are going to look really fantastic in them, but they're not having bride's bouquets, they're not having buttonholes, they're not having table centres, they're just having those flower crowns. And actually at Stourhead, which I recommend you look up, and for a wedding venue, they've got this, they've got the place called the Temple of Apollo, which is a very, very small venue. And to get there, you walk over a little stone bridge up to this very beautiful, tiny stone building, which can only fit 15 or 20 people. I mean, it's really tiny. You can have the most exquisite ceremony. Really, everything that I think weddings should be: intimate, small, really about the two people who are saying, I love you and I'm planning to spend the rest of my life with you, and let's declare that we're going to give it a go, which is what weddings are. And I think that I love a tiny wedding. So actually, if you're not going to have all the rest of the floral fancies, a flower crown is a really stunning way to do it. And it certainly keeps your budget tight. Anyway, I'm off to deliver. But thanks very much for watching. I hope you're inspired. Maybe have a go. I always say to my clients, if they really want a flower crown, I say, I tell you what, go and get yourself some ivy, long strings of ivy. Make a little, twist it round so it'll sit on your head, and wear it for 12 hours. If after that you still want to wear a flower crown, let me know and I'll make you one. There you go. All right, have a lovely day. I'll see you later. Bye. If you're still with me, this is the lovely bridge that my brides will walk over. They walk from the right. They'll walk from the right over there, by the lake, up over the top, up there, and then I'll show you. So there's the bridge down there in the distance. So they walk over the bridge and then they walk up through these lovely woods, and there is the little temple of Apollo where the ceremony will take place. And it looks over the famous lake, which I can't show you because I'm standing on the public road. But the lake is the other side here, and you can hear people shouting the other side. It's very, very famous Capability Brown garden. Stourhead is an estate built by the Hoare family, and it's famous for the gardens, extraordinary laid out gardens by Capability Brown, and here come the police, interestingly. I don't think they're going to stop and talk to me. So the gardens were laid out by Capability Brown, and they're full, and it's really extraordinary collection of trees. It's the most beautiful place. It's really worth a visit if ever you're in the neighbourhood. But the gardens are also famous for their follies, which are sort of little joke stone buildings which make belvederes. It's something to look at round to give perspective to a view. And the Temple of Apollo is one of them. I'll show you one of the others. There, that's the big temple on the lake. Look it up. It's really, really worth looking at. Anyway, we locals know it very well and walk around it a lot and love it. But if you're not local, it's very much worth a visit. Even though I think it is the National Trust's most visited garden or most visited site of all the National Trust, which is quite something. Anyway, the follies are brilliant. There's a little tiny witch's cottage and there's a shell grotto. There are the temples. It's just lovely. It's really worth a trip. Anyway, and it's about 3 miles away from us. Although we're Somerset and obviously this is Wiltshire. And to get here, I've had to drive through Dorset. But those are the vagaries of old English roads. Anyway, see you later. Bye.